The air hung heavy, thick with the humid stillness of a Georgia night. 11:47 p.m. For 19-year-old Jamal Washington, the Friday night freedom had just shattered. He and his buddies, Ryan and Taylor, pulled up to the Washington family's two-story colonial on Sycamore Lane, the porch light casting a sickly yellow glow on the manicured lawn. Something felt wrong. Dead wrong. Jamal's key turned in the lock, the click echoing in an unnerving silence. "Yo, Mom? Dad? We're back," Jamal called out, his voice swallowed by the stillness. He flipped the light switch. Nothing. Power outage? Weird. "Maybe they went out," Ryan offered, but the forced cheer in his voice didn't mask the growing tension. Jamal pulled out his phone flashlight, the beam cutting through the darkness. The living room was off. Not just dark, but off. A vase lay shattered on the Persian rug, its porcelain shards glinting in the weak light. Then, a dark stain on the carpet, spreading like a malevolent ink blot. "What the?" Taylor whispered, his voice tight. Jamal moved forward, his heart hammering against his ribs, a drumbeat of dread. He pushed open the door to the dining room. The scene ripped the air from his lungs. His father, slumped over the mahogany table, a crimson pool blooming beneath his head. His mother, sprawled on the floor near the doorway, her eyes wide and vacant, staring up at nothing. A metallic tang, thick and sickeningly sweet, filled the air, the unmistakable stench of blood. Panic clawed at Jamal's throat. "No! No!" He stumbled back, his breath catching in ragged gasps. He had two younger brothers, 8-year-old Marcus and 6-year-old Deshaun. Where were they? Ryan and Taylor, white-faced and frozen, followed him as he lurched up the stairs. Marcus and Deshaun's room was a nightmare painted in red. The boys lay still in their beds, their small bodies twisted at unnatural angles, their blankets soaked and heavy. The world tilted, spun. Jamal felt himself falling into a black abyss. Burglary? Robbery gone wrong. His mind grasped for any explanation, any escape from the horrific reality. He stumbled back downstairs, dialing 911 with shaking fingers, his voice a choked whisper. "My family, they're all dead." Sirens wailed in the distance, growing louder, closer. The flashing red and blue lights painted the quiet suburban street in macabre strokes as police cruisers descended on the Washington home. Jamal and his friends were separated, ushered into the cold, sterile environment of the Maplewood police station. Witnesses, they said. For now. Detective Miller, a seasoned veteran with eyes that missed nothing and a voice as smooth as aged bourbon, led Jamal to a small, windowless interrogation room. No harsh lights, no intimidating posture, just a calm, almost avuncular demeanor. "Jamal, right? Detective Miller. So sorry about what happened back there. Unbelievable tragedy." Miller offered a sympathetic nod, pulling out a chair. "Just want to get a timeline. Walk me through last night, okay? No pressure, just help us understand." Jamal, numb and reeling, recounted Friday. Hanging out with Ryan and Taylor, grabbing burgers at the pit stop, a late-night movie, then back to Taylor's for a sleepover. He glossed over the hours he'd been gone, the hours shrouded in a growing unease that gnawed at the edges of his memory. Meanwhile, in another room, Ryan and Taylor shifted uncomfortably. Detective Reynolds, sharp and direct, leaned forward. "Jamal said you guys were together all night. Sleepover, right?" Ryan hesitated, picking at a loose thread on his jeans. "Yeah, mostly. Movie, pizza, sleepover stuff." "Mostly?" Reynolds' eyebrow arched. "What does mostly mean, Ryan?" Taylor jumped in, a little too quickly. "Just, Jamal stepped out for a bit. Said he needed to grab something from home. Forgot his charger, maybe?" He shrugged, the forced casualness ringing false. Reynolds' gaze sharpened, moving between them. "A bit? How long is a bit in teenage time, guys? An hour? 2? Did Jamal say exactly when he left? When he got back?" The silence stretched, thick with unspoken questions. Ryan and Taylor exchanged nervous glances, the easy camaraderie of Friday night dissolving into a pool of doubt and suspicion. Jamal had been gone for more than a bit. He'd been gone for hours, and he hadn't mentioned a charger. Back in the interrogation room, Miller offered Jamal a bottle of water, a granola bar. "Rough night, huh? You must be starving." He kept the tone conversational, friendly. "So, you got back to Taylor's after the movie. What, around 10? 11? Jamal nodded, taking a hesitant sip of water. "Yeah, something like that." "And you stayed there all night? Slept over at Taylor's?" Miller's voice was gentle, almost too gentle. "Yeah, all night," Jamal confirmed, the words feeling heavy in his mouth. Miller leaned back, his gaze steady. "That's interesting, Jamal. Because when we got to your house, the back door was unlocked, and the kitchen light was on. Burglars usually don't leave lights on, right? Kind of defeats the purpose." He paused, letting the implication hang in the air. "And an unlocked back door. Kind of convenient, wouldn't you say?" Jamal's throat tightened. The back door. Unlocked? He hadn't thought about that. Panic flickered in his eyes. I don't know. We always lock up." Miller nodded slowly, his gaze unwavering. "Sure. Unless someone forgot? Or maybe someone wanted it unlocked?" The friendly mask slipped, just for a moment replaced by a steely edge. Jamal felt a cold dread seep into his bones. He shifted in his chair, his palms suddenly clammy. Then it tumbled out, a desperate attempt to explain, to deflect. "Okay, look, maybe I asked my little brothers to leave it unlocked. Sometimes I sneak back in late, you know? Didn't want to wake anyone up." He forced a nervous laugh, the sound hollow and unconvincing even to his own ears. Miller's expression didn't change. "You asked your little brothers, Marcus and Deshaun, to unlock the back door for you last night?" He let the question linger, heavy with unspoken meaning. 8- and 6-year-olds, complicit in a late-night sneak-in plan. It sounded absurd, even to Jamal. The interrogation shifted, the casual facade crumbling. Detective Miller leaned forward, his voice hardening, the bourbon smoothness replaced by steel. "Jamal, let's cut the crap, okay? 4 people are dead. Your family. And things just aren't adding up." He laid out the inconsistencies, the unlocked door, the lights, the lack of forced entry anywhere else in the house. This wasn't some random burglary, Jamal. This was personal, up close and personal. Miller's gaze bored into Jamal, relentless. "So, let's talk motives. Family arguments? Money trouble? Were you fighting with your dad? Did he ground you? Take away your car?" He watched Jamal's face, searching for a flicker of recognition, a crack in the carefully constructed facade. Then, the direct question, the one that hung in the air like a death sentence. "Jamal, were you angry at your family? Angry enough to do something you'd regret? Were you angry enough to become a cold-blooded killer?" The word hung there, stark and brutal. Killer. Jamal flinched as if struck. No, I would never. I loved my family." His voice cracked, a desperate plea for belief. Miller remained unmoved. "Then explain it, Jamal. Explain why your family is dead, and you're the only one with a convenient alibi that falls apart under the slightest scrutiny. Explain why nothing was stolen, why it looks like someone wanted to make it look like a burglary, but didn't even try hard." He pushed on, relentless, dismantling Jamal's flimsy defenses. "Insurance money? Is that it, Jamal? Did you think you'd cash in, set yourself up for life? But think about it. Insurance companies aren't stupid. They investigate. And this screams foul play, Jamal. It screams you." The weight of the accusations, the crushing logic, the undeniable inconsistencies. It all became too much. Jamal's carefully constructed composure began to unravel. He fidgeted, his breathing shallow and rapid, sweat beading on his forehead. Finally, the dam broke. The truth, a dark, festering secret, spilled out in a torrent of choked sobs and broken words. It was my dad. We argued. About the car. He said I couldn't use it anymore. The confession tumbled forth, a horrifying account of rage and escalating violence. The argument, fueled by teenage frustration and parental authority, had spiraled out of control. Jamal admitted to grabbing a heavy wrench from the garage, the metallic weight solid in his hand, the red haze of anger blinding him. One swing, aimed at his father's head, then another, and another. Then the sickening realization of what he'd done. His mother, hearing the commotion, coming downstairs, witnessing the horror. And he panicked. He couldn't let her live. Couldn't let her tell. And then Marcus and Deshawn, asleep in their beds, innocent, helpless, silenced forever to cover his tracks. The interrogation room air grew thick with the weight of his confession. Detective Miller listened, his expression grim, as Jamal's voice trailed off, the horror of his actions finally sinking in. Months later, in a packed courtroom, Jamal Washington, 19 years old, stood before the judge, his face pale and drawn. He pleaded guilty to 4 counts of first-degree murder. No trial, no lengthy appeals. Just a quiet admission of guilt, a surrender to the inescapable consequences of his actions. The sentence was swift and final. 4 life terms, to be served consecutively. No chance of parole. Jamal Washington would spend the rest of his days behind bars, haunted by the ghosts of his family, the echoes of his midnight confession, and the chilling realization of the monster he had become in the suffocating darkness of a Georgia night. Maplewood would never be the same.